Greetings and salutations, this is Brian from Mechbladestudios, and it's our 1-year anniversary today. I want to start with thanking each and every one of you for the support, and hopefully you'll stay tuned for another year of entertaining and hopefully helpful videos. So, to celebrate the occasion, I thought we'd go back to the very first piece of media I ever covered on this channel, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. No, this isn't a rehash because I'll specifically be covering the DLC release for this game, which means I guess I'm also covering the complete edition. So, is it worth shelling out more money for more content for this game? Let the length of time it took me to put this video together be foreshadowing. Oh, and spoilers for the base game ahead. To very quickly recap, SAO Fatal Bullet is a third-person looter shooter taking place in Gungale Online, the setting for the first half of Sword Art Online's second season. You're an avatar working with an intelligent AI towards doing a boss raid with Kirito and friends. It's very fanfiction-y, I know. Before getting into specifics about the DLCs themselves, let's talk about the state of the game in general. A new overworld, White Frontier, has been added. From my understanding, it was added with a 4th DLC pack. We'll talk about why this is important later. Several new weapons have been added. Menu controls that make selecting multiple items or all items have been added. This includes the appraising menu. Your ArFA-Sys has new voice options, but none of them are that different from each other. Would it have killed them to add something along the lines of this? New outfits have been added. A Bullet of Bullets mode is available. It's rather fun, at least against the bots. On the online side of things, the game now has a normal deathmatch mode, eschewing the boss monsters. Regular matchmaking is completely barren, but I did manage to get into one lobby and played a few games. Mechanically, it's fine, kill the enemy team before they kill you, but the lack of team balancing leads to situations like this where I get put on a Black Ops kill squad against a bunch of noobs with Nerf guns. It's nice that they finally added this, but it begs the question of why this wasn't in the game at launch. There might be an actual player base if that happened. There's an option to increase the rate of affinity growth, and items called memories that can speed it up even further with specific characters. You can upgrade your apartment to add additional rooms, a music player, a voice clip player, and a classy way to replay affinity events. To celebrate you upgrading your digs, a good chunk of Kirito's friends break into your house to hang out. You can talk to them to get requests, which are just assassination missions. And for the most important yet unadvertised feature, your AI teammates will become significantly more stupid. I had my grievances about the AI last time, but something the developers added made them worse. Asking your teammates to revive you results in them either dodge rolling over and over, inexplicably missing or refusing to use their AED revive bullet, or standing there and waiting to die. Anyone with the Hawkeye skill marks literally any point of a boss except their weak spot, ruining your hipfire. Teammates forget what jumping or warping are, and jump down holes till they die, requiring you to go back to their body, which is usually at the beginning of a dungeon, to revive them. This is why multiplayer should have been allowed in the main campaign, so you can have your friends or at the very least other people with mics to coordinate a strategy. It's Gungale Online, it wouldn't be out of place at all. The first 3 DLC packs tell a story taking place before the boss raid takes place. Here you'll notice the first problem with Fatal Bullet's DLC. I went in expecting each DLC to tell its own story, like the Mass Effect DLCs, but the first 3 are one story. Even Strangers, how the DLC missions don't simply appear on your map, but you have to start each DLC from the main menu in a manner similar to entering Kirito mode. That said though, progress on leveling and affinity carries over to the DLC missions, and vice versa. The first, Ambush of the Imposters, is about you and your party investigating the appearance of doppelgangers of characters you've met, namely childhood friend Kureha and edgelord Itsuki. After tearing through the dungeon and mowing them down with your over-leveled weapons, you gain access to these 3 characters that have appeared in the show for a few seconds each. It also turns out that copies of Kirito and Asuna have been spotted in GGO, and that's it. One lousy dungeon using the exact same enemies as you fought before, and you're done. For the second DLC, Betrayal of the Comrades, the developers noticed that charging $10 for one 20-minute dungeon was rather shady, so they decided to make the experience more substantial by adding countless hours of grinding. In Vanilla Solitary Sands, there's a flying mech called Honeycomb Maker. He's a gigantic pain in the ass because of his pentabeam that can one-hit kill you, and his single lock-on beam that can one-hit kill you. The nice part about Vanilla Honeycomb Maker though is that beating him is totally optional. As long as you don't aggro him, he'll ignore you and your lobotomized turkeys you call a squad. One of the mandatory bosses in this DLC's dungeon is a stronger Honeycomb Maker. As bad as it sounds though, after you grind, this fight is arguably easier than the vanilla version because you actually get this little useful feature called cover. If you stay behind this pillar, you can easily avoid both his insta-kill attacks. Your squad mates obviously won't fare so well, but as long as they die in a spot behind a wall where you can revive them, you'll be fine. Also, you'll need to do this battle 3 times to farm materials for your house upgrade. I'm sure this will be the only time this will happen, right? You defeat a copy of Kirito, and a copy of your own ArFA-Sys calling himself Lever joins you. Then these 2 minor characters from SAO Alternative show up and kick your ass, requiring more grinding. So you proceed to the dungeon and grind some more, and what the hell is that? Yeah, if you offhandedly accept one of those requests, they'll usually respawn in insanely high-leveled enemies somewhere, sometimes in an overworld, other times in dungeons like this. And no, there's no way to quit the quest. The requests do help for grinding, but the requests themselves require grinding if you're not extremely patient. It doesn't help that the recommended level for the main quest of the DLC is level 100. Why? If the game's gonna make us grind, why not add multiple dungeons or different enemies that aren't just crazy versions of enemies that we see all the time? The frustrating part is that under normal circumstances, I have a lot of patience for grinding. Just put on some music, grab a beer, or just play for a while. Because I suspected something like this might happen, I started working on this review in February. Worse yet, this is all the footage I took, and that's not counting off-screen grinding between bosses. I have played this game for multiple days straight. It would have taken several days more if I played this when it was released before Winter Frontier was added. This is insanity! After beating and recruiting these 2 and watching another request target kill himself, Lever reveals herself to be a super advanced ArFA-Sys from the ship your boss raid is on, who wants to destroy the SBC Glocken, the hub area of the game. You then have to fight evil Kirito and evil Asuna, and then these 2 ninja mech things. Copies of more players have been spotted in the game, and the DLC ends. This was hell. All you get are 2 characters, 200,000 credits, and a weapon level 7 enhanced material. Oh, it's also worth noting that for some of the house enhancements I mentioned earlier, like the music box, I had to farm them from bosses, including these 2 ninja mechs, and including some more bosses we'll see later. Collapse of Balance opens with you hunting down and killing player copies. Yu-Gi-Oh! And Alice from Alicization, which I haven't watched yet, show up for reasons, never having played GGO before, yet somehow are the exact same level as you when you recruit them. I want whatever they use to power level. Or maybe not, because they aren't helpful as squad mates at all. So apparently the Glocken is being invaded by ArFA-Sys copies preparing to attack it, but A, I can go back to my house no problem, B, the Glocken looks no different, and C, fast travel exists, so why would being unable to access the Glocken be a problem? You get a storefront in your own condo. During this time, the group comes to the conclusion that this whole mess is an in-game event that was activated way too early, and that Lever is just following the script. Itsuki, of all people, brings up the unironically logical idea that the dev teams can just patch the game to stop all this from happening, highlighting how stupid this questline is. Soliska then argues that we still have to do something because people will leave the game if they run into this issue if they aren't experienced enough to deal with it. You heard that right, people. We're not fighting to save people's lives from a death game or even fighting to accomplish a simple goal in the in-universe game itself. We're fighting for the righteous cause of player retention. That's like having a plot based on playing Fallout 76 and trying to stop those 3 players that launched 3 nukes from doing so, or playing Mass Effect Andromeda and trying to fix everyone's faces, or playing Bionicle the game and trying to knock down those stalactites before Tahu can run into them. What is this? First, you have to farm data chips out of enemies. Then you have to find keys in random locations, including one requiring a double grapple gun jump that you've never been asked to do before. Then you have to pay Argo 30 million credits, which isn't that hard thanks to investment, but come on. Then you have to go through this pack's dungeon that throws crazy amounts of enemies at you, culminating in a room with several consecutive bosses, little cover, and a level 180 request player from Lens Request if you made the mistake of talking to her, all exacerbated by your squad mates that couldn't fight themselves out of a trash bag with holes cut in it. This was finally the point where I had to abandon my usual dual LMGs for these not AUGs. Then you have to fight this giant tank thing in a fight that would normally be pretty interesting with how you use cover and coordination, but then your teammates just decide to stand in front of tank treads meeting their certain deaths. You beat the tank thing and proceed to fight another, bigger tank thing and Lever herself on a bridge in the final defense of the SBC Glocken. You can summon friendly mechs to deal more damage to the tank thing. The tank's attacks are less unpredictable here, so this fight is actually fun when the AI knows to shoot the tank. When you finally defeat Lever, instead of shoving an anti-material rifle down her throat and pulling the trigger for everything she did to you, you watch her shut down the end. Ish. Yui breaks into your house and asks for materials to modify Lever's repair pod. How do you get materials? Fight the first tank thing 4 more times! After you do that, you realize that this guy named Subtilizer is Lever's master and only used her as a pawn. The final DLC takes place after the main story, and seeing as all the grinding meant I satisfied the conditions to get the ArFA-Sys amulet, which triggers the true ending, I figure I'd talk about that for a bit since I didn't do that in my original playthrough. After the boss raid, everyone obliquely heaps praise upon you to Kureiha's chagrin. Itsuki confesses to you, and you turn him down. There's no option to accept. And he contacts an unnamed player and logs everyone out of the game. Kureiha's wish is to become the top player in GGO, but you've taken that opportunity from her, so she challenges you to a duel. It's even funnier after grinding so much. You beat her, she leaves the group for a while, as does Itsuki and Zaliska. Deathgun contacts you and supposedly challenges you to a fight. You log out and discover a nerve gear, the VR headset that killed people in the original SAO, and you, your ArFA-Sys, and the other Fatal Bullet OCs end up in a death game server. You fight a boss, Itsuki's out as the bad guy, you fight another boss, both of which are total jokes after the shit I've been through, and Yui uses some Deus Ex Machina to safely log everyone out as you and Itsuki have pistols pointed at each other, ignoring the fact that a shot from either of those would do a negligible amount of damage. Some guy from Itsuki's guild masqueraded as Deathgun to put this together and sent nerve gears to you, Kureiha, and Zaliska. Two of them were just a safer atmosphere modified to simply look like the nerve gear, while one was real. Evidently, the endings seem to vary based on who received the real one. In the bad endings where either Kureiha and Zaliska die, one of them received the real one, but in the true ending, you got the real one, but won, so you don't die. You get a big party and a fairly entertaining cutscene, the end. You can choose New Game Plus at this point if you wish, but for the purposes of what comes next, I said no. Itsuki was kind of boring as a villain, being outwardly evil for shallow reasons, and taking the Kayaba route of leaving his true intentions a mystery via mixing up his past when talking to others. Finally, we come to Dissonance of the Nexus. After a 2D animated intro cutscene with jazz playing over it, you learn that this is actually where you can enter the dungeons that appear in White Frontier. First of all, that's dungeons with an S, so there's more than one to do. And second of all, they have a lot of puzzles and usable traps, breaking up the monotony of just shooting the same enemies over and over. The whole DLC has you alternating between exploring dungeons with Kirito and friends and exploring a second overworld area with the SAOAGGO crew. The paths obviously cross eventually, with two subplots in between. One of which is the inexplicable appearance of dead girl Sachi, and the other being Eiji and Yuna from previous Mechbladestudios subject Ordinal Scale getting separated in the game. Sachi is an AI replica, but she's suddenly beginning to malfunction, and you have to find a way to stabilize her. You beat a boss that drops an item that preserves Sachi's data before she fades away. You head into probably the most infuriating boss fight in the game against this spider thing. Why is he any worse than the others? Every one of his moves is a one-hit kill, and you're fighting alongside this game's AI. Look at this! Does this look fun to you? When you finally blow the thing up, Eiji and Yuna are reunited, the credits roll, meaning we're all done with this game, and Lever wakes up and parties up with you because her master's a dick or something. She knows how to give Sachi a physical form again and asks you to gather some materials. Where are the materials? On this new ship, the SBCA Bend. It says you had to defeat a boss on it. I wonder what's like, oh fuck this, that's where I'm drawing the line. Judging by your inbox, you unlocked Lever Sachi to use, the end. Scoring is going to be a bit weird. The first three DLCs get a 4 out of 10. It's a nonsensical story weaved in between annoyingly difficult dungeons that require days of grinding to beat. The characters you get are either not helpful or locked away shortly after their introduction. Dissonance of the Nexus gets a 6 out of 10, in that the multiple different dungeons and the multiple storylines are interesting, but it still requires a shit ton of grinding to get anywhere, to the point where I have yet to actually finish it because of that last boss. Both DLCs suffer from the fact that it's just fighting the same enemies in the same looking dungeons as the base game. If you must have the characters and have a lot of time on your hands, then I suppose you can go for the complete upgrade if you think it's worth $40, but otherwise stay away. The base game is perfectly fine on its own. So that's it for me for now. What do you guys think? Have you downloaded the DLC? Is your sanity still intact? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, leave a like and subscribe for more reviews of anime, video games, and movies. Also, hit that bell icon so you know exactly when a new video goes up, and share this video with someone who might find it helpful. Thanks for watching, and thanks for such a great year. This is Brian from Mechbladestudios, signing off.